Welcome to the worst nightmare of all.
My life.
Reality.
Explore the lesser-known stories of our unknown world. Join the pursuit of the paranormal with Ash and Greg.
Hello, Ash. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Greg?
I'm very good. Anybody who skips through these, they will hear the exact same opening every episode. I know we do it. It's funny because I've seen somebody's like Instagram reel that do recipes or whatever, and if you scroll through each time, they introduce the exactly same words. And it's like I'm sure just
it's like TikTok. It's like going on someone's like profile. It's like, hey guys. I'm like,
exactly
just the same thing at the start.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So tonight we are doing something a little bit different to what we normally do.
Yeah.
So we are reviewing two movies that one is out and one is coming out. And the one that's coming out is actually being released this Friday, the 20th, on Amazon Prime, which is Nandor Fodor and the Talking Mongoose.
It is.
Which is directed and written by Adam Sigal, who, at the end of this episode, once we've talked about the film and our thoughts on it, will play the interview that we managed to get with him, which was weird. It was weird. So in a good way, weird. Yeah. So that'll play at the end, and you'll hear his thoughts on Jeff the Talking Mongoose. Which, when you say it out loud like that, it does sound rather weird. But if you listen to one of our previous episodes, we talked to Richard Freeman, who is more of an expert in Jeff the Talking Mongoose than certainly I am. So
definitely.
So, and that was my first introduction to Jeff, was way back in April time, where we spoke and talked about Jeff the Talking Mongoose, which is kind of weird.
It's a great, just the tagline is enough to pique the interest.
Considering a mongoose isn't really a natural animal to the UK.
No.
So, and it's based in the Isle of Man. But yeah, we'll come on to that in a bit. But the first film we're going to talk about is, it's a bit of a weird one. It ticks a lot of boxes, this episode. So we're going to talk around No One Will Save You.
Yeah.
Which is on Hulu, it's on Disney Plus.
It came out, was it a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
About a month ago, maybe.
Yeah. Any other streaming website that you might go to for films, whether or not you're using VPNs or not. But you can find it if you look hard enough. If you haven't got Disney or Hulu. So that's the first one we're going to talk about. So the premise around it is, my understanding, when you see it, it's pretty hard not to get the storyline right from the first moment. Essentially, there's like a UFO incident, and it's basically aliens coming down and infiltrating Earth to all intents and purposes, and it revolves around one main character throughout the whole film. Yeah,
no, it's really good. And spoilers ahead for anyone that hasn't seen it.
Oh yeah. Good shout. I'll put that on the show notes as well. Spoiler: we will be talking in depth about both films. So, and especially as one's not even out, and I was told we could talk about it, so that was all good.
Cool. Yeah, especially with No One Will Save You. The kind of the story itself and is quite unusual, and you wouldn't want to give. We will talk about what happens, which will kind of ruin it if you wanted that suspense. But skip ahead to around 20 minutes if you don't want to hear spoilers.
Or completely miss the episode if you don't want to be spoiled for both films. which is
Well,
something
skip to the last 15 minutes if you want to listen to the interview.
And I try not to give too much away in the interview in my questions, just to let you know. So it's going to be a weird episode here. We will be giving a lot of information away. But if you can get to at least this point in the podcast before you turn off, that really helps us with algorithms and all that kind of stuff. So 5 minutes in is good. And what I'll do, Ash, is in the show notes, we'll put down what times we start talking about the certain things, so at least people can either choose to switch off at that moment or whatnot.
Yeah, so beyond this point, spoilers, you have been warned.
Yes, indeed. So, no one will save you. And can I first say that there's a movie buff where I work, the guy into films, and he talks stuff that it goes over my head, and he'll say, this person was in this film, and this. I was like, mate, you lost me as soon as you started talking of them. So I said to him, have you seen No One Will Save You? He goes, no, I've seen the artwork, and I think most people have probably seen the artwork by now. And I said, watch it, it's brilliant. He come back the next day, he was like, oh my God, Greg, you gave me a movie recommendation that I really enjoyed. And it is a great film. I really enjoyed. What did you? Yeah, so what did you think to it first of all? Before we give any spoilers away and talk about it in depth, what was your thoughts on the film?
I thought it was amazing. I mean, I love alien movies, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been a while since there's been a real good one. And with the trailer for this, there's aspects of science in there. And
massively.
Which I was looking forward to. Even the film we talked about before, the McPherson tape, Alien Abduction. There's similar aspects of that in there.
And it's up there with like the moments.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think the whole kind of plot, I think, was amazing when I got to the end of it. And when you realise certain things, it's like, oh my God. So just for one kind of mini spoil there's pretty much zero dialogue.
Yeah,
there's about 2 lines of dialogue in the whole film. You don't really realise it until the end. You think no one talked in this film.
And I actually felt that made the film stronger. Because when you realise that nobody's actually spoken really, or there's no interaction with people. And then I was thinking in my head, when I'm saying that, it sounds like it's like a silent movie, but it's not. It's just no words, really. It's just everything else is there.
I was explaining it to my brother. I was like, you need to watch this. I was like, no one talks. He's like, what do you mean no one talks? I was like, no, there's no dialogue. It's just no dialogue. It's basically just one actress. It's Caitlin Dever. It's just basically the main character. There's a couple of others at the start of the film. Apart from that, it's basically all around her in her home. Kind of get some kind of insight into her life. She's been shunned by the whole community, which she later found out is because of something that happened when she was a kid, which I thought it's a bit tight. It's like you could kind of they allude to it early on, but you find out near the end that what happened. But you kind of know straight away that must have been what happened when she was a kid. Where she basically pushed a friend in an argument and the friend died, and must have been about 14 at the time. But she's now in her 30s, and the whole community won't talk to her. She's shunned for something that happened when she was a kid. I thought that's a bit harsh, because she was a kid at the time.
Yeah, it was... I mean, it's a very strange sort of backstory, like you say, and it is quite tight that it's still shunning her after this time. So you don't. It's strange, but that doesn't impact the film at all. In fact, that probably alludes to the fact that she's just not speaking to anyone.
That's why. I mean, I guess they had to have a reason for her not to get help. Because the action kicks off pretty much straight away.
Yeah, it does.
It's not like with Signs, like the creature reveal in Signs.
It's way into it, isn't it?
Way into it, and you only get like a bit of a glimpse, and that's kind of it. Whereas this, it's literally within the first 10 minutes. It's a home invasion. The bright lights come, and then there's creatures in the house, smashing things around.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't let up straight, and you see the creatures straight away. So there's no like kind of suspense. It's not like because a lot of stuff we like with Blair Witch Project, with Signs, with Alien Abduction, with Face and Tape, you don't see the creatures till near the end, or in the Blair Witch you never see anything. It's the premises you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
In this one, it's just straight away. It's there. That's what the creature looks like.
And one of the creatures looks like there's multiple versions of these aliens, and some of them are freaky. Because there's one thing that got me. I saw the poster for the Babadook. Have you seen the Babadook?
Yes. I
saw the poster and I thought, fuck, this looks brilliant. Just from the poster, I thought this looks super eerie. And then you get into it, and like this whole, is it her depression and blah blah blah. We're not talking about Babadook, but I thought fantastic. And then the Babadook appears, and it ruined everything for me. It really did. And I just thought you didn't need to show him. You could have just kept him on the fringes. And I thought that spoiled the film for me. So when I thought we'd see the aliens straight away, and I was thinking, is this too much too soon? Because Blair Witch does it completely opposite. And the only kind of thing at the end of Blair Witch is where the camera falls over, where the guy's in the corner. Spoiler alert. The film is 20 odd years old. So if you're into it now, then I'm not spoiling anything. But so, yeah, there is a bit of a happy medium with Signs. There's that premise that there's something there that you're not quite sure of. Same with 10 Cloverfield Lane. Have you seen that?
That's the only one I've not seen out of them.
That's really
the one with
cool.
John Goodman?
Yes, the best one.
That's the one I've not seen.
It's the best one. And it's kind of, you don't really, same with all of them, you don't really know what they're afraid of or what it is. And that adds to the mystique a bit. I think you'd like 10 Cloverfield Lane, actually.
Definitely need to go and watch it.
And if you've seen Paradox, awful, don't do it.
That might want to put me off. But the way you talk about with the Babadook and the way you think it's her, that's kind of great in it. You have that thought with this film. Because she's this isolated, shunned young woman living on her own.
Yeah.
And she does seem to be a bit unhinged.
Yeah.
The way she's living. I do think, if you start questioning it, is this happening? Or is she imagining it?
Yeah.
Is he he trying to either not imagine it or making it up like a story for herself? So that something's happening to her just because she has basically no one in her life. But I mean, I did love it. Overall, I'd watch it again. Thought the premise was great. There's bits towards the middle because she spends quite a lot of time fighting aliens, and there's multiple aliens. And it's mine just to keep fighting them off. And at one point, I was like, "Come on!" Like, it was a little bit laughable. I was like, "There's no way." It's a bit unrealistic, and because you do see the aliens straight away. Got that now. Suspense has gone. They kind of, after probably the first 45, 50 minutes, they're not really scary anymore. Whereas at the start they are, and because he keeps fighting them off and kills one of them, and this, it's like it got a little bit. It's probably about a 10-minute period. In the middle, where I was like, "This is just a bit stupid now."
Yeah, when they're in the kitchen, and there's that weird one with all weird arms and that. Yeah, that was the bit I was thinking, surely that would fuck you up. I'm sorry. That kind of alien from another planet, they don't send aliens like that just to do a bit of gentle probing. They're there to fucking massacre. But yeah, it was, I get that. I get what you're saying. It was a bit much at times. You go, well, really? To one person, all of that? But yeah, overall, really good. I thought the way the aliens move was very interesting because they're not like fluid. They're all like glitchy. type movement when they're moving. I thought that was a really good touch because he kind of given a different. I was expecting this grey alien to appear on the screen and it do all the normal stuff, but it was all a bit glitchy and then this is a major spoiler alert when they that thing goes into her mouth.
Yes,
she's pinned to the ceiling. This weird like
parasite,
sea urchin, parasite thing going into her mouth, and her mouth just opens because they've sort of like forced her, and that's quite an intense few minutes of that happening.
What that reminded me of? Have you seen The Last of Us TV show?
No.
For those that have seen The Last of Us, there's a scene. Spoilers for anyone not seen the TV show. When they're in the.
I haven't seen it.
Is it the Capitol building they're in? And then basically one of it's a zombie type. You get the infection, and once you got the infection, that's it. You kind of fucked. But all these zombie creatures, clickers, whatever, come to the building where the woman's in, and the others are trying to escape. So she says at the bottom to slow them down, to let them escape. And there's a scene, it's like
classic.
They grow and spread through. It's like similar to roots of like a tree of plants, and that's how it kind of spreads these spores that cause the infection. And these control the body. So it's they control the mind.
Yeah.
And oh my god, when it happened, it's like, oh my god, this is absolutely awful. So there's one clicker, walker, whatever, gets right up close to the woman, opens his mouth, and it's like goes in for a kiss. But then these roots like sprout out of his mouth and go into her mouth. And the thing is absolutely awful. But it reminded me of that when this sort of parasite sea urchin like thing is going into her mouth. And I think it's just one of them, it's hard, like, I don't want to look at this, it's just horrible, it's awful to watch.
And they do it's fairly slow as well. So it's coming at her at a really slow speed, and she's clearly horrified but can't do anything about it. And then she rounds her. So this is, if you hit this bit and you're not expecting to hear spoilers, I'm sorry, but you are. But she like throws her hand down her throat to try and get it out. A little bit later on, she's trying to pull out, she gets out the stitch because she says some of the other people from the community, and they've got like this weird, the urchins in their throat or something, and you can see that they're like affected.
So I guess the kind of point of the aliens being there is they're coming down to Earth. They're putting these parasites, whatever they are, into, like you say, the throats of the humans.
COVID. Yeah.
And then they can then control them with this parasite in the throat. And that's why they're coming to Earth, to kind of take over the bodies of the humans. So they're doing that to her, but then, like you say, she gets it off. No one else could, but she managed to...
weirdly. After fighting them all off as well. So it's pretty good going. And so parasites themselves and the way parasites spread is very interesting. And this is where I'm sort of going slightly geek now. And it's all to do, a lot of parasites use their host body to further their population, like you've just mentioned. And they can affect the host animal or person or whatever to do what they want rather than what the host wants. So there's a particular parasite that can only breed from being inside a cat's stomach.
Okay.
Right? So the only way this parasite can multiply and live on is from a cat's stomach. How do you think it gets in a cat's stomach on purpose?
I'd say in its food.
Yep. So cats like to eat rats or mice. This parasite infects rats, right? And controls them so that they don't run away when they see or can smell cat wee or whatever. They stay there in the particular area where they know cats are, and it forces the rat to stay there. Cat comes along, eats it in its stomach, reproduces.
What?
So that's how clever parasites are, that you can do that, and the parasite will just like live on and regenerate and reproduce through certain aspects. So these parasites, that's what they're doing. They're infecting the human, and as you see in the film, they control the human host.
That's crazy. That sounds like an X-Files. That sounds like an X-Files episode.
I'll send you a link. It's mental. Wow. I heard it on another podcast as well, weirdly.
Wow.
So parasites are very clever. Like they're not. Well, they're not. They're quite basic, but they are. The way they evolve and carry on the species is very clever. That they infect the host and make the host do stuff, which is what happens in this film. That they force those community members, I say neighbours, but they're not really like people in the community, and they change, and you can see it because they've got like a weird thing on their throat, and she recognises that that's what this parasite thing is, and she's like grabs it out of her mouth and shit like that, because she's a bit more aware than the others.
Yeah. God, that's so
and
weird.
It was quite an intense, for me, that was probably the most intense bit in the film, was where this parasite went into her. And all the while, there's no dialogue. And in my head, I'm thinking, this is a silent movie, but it's not. It's proper action-packed. Like you say, as soon as you see the aliens right at the start, it's pretty much full on from there. It doesn't go... It's very signs-looking at the start, where you don't quite see the alien to begin with. And then she walks backwards up the stairs, and there's a creaky bit of wood. And they come for her. So it's yes.
I mean, what's good, and Caitlin Dever does a great job, basically being the only actress in the film, carried it all. And as we get towards the end of the film, so there's kind of like a boss battle. This other giant, legged
weird
boss alien. She ends up killing.
I thought boss, that's like end of level boss. That's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching it.
And then she ends up killing that alien. And then that's when we find out that the reason she was shunned from the community is because she killed a friend when she was a kid by accident. Again, pretty tight to still have that. But like I said,
that's holding a grudge, that is.
Yeah, because this takes place over a couple of days. And she does escape the house, goes to the town to get help, goes to the police station. But the girl who's killed, her dad was like the chief of police. So it's like, no one talks to her, and she just thinks, like, no one can help me. So she goes back to the house to basically fight him herself.
Yeah.
And then the film ends.
So, before you say it, so this is the one bit I've seen people saying about the end of the film. Obviously, I've seen the end of the film. I didn't get it. I didn't really figure out what the whole purpose of them coming down and infecting people was. So please enlighten me.
So I mean, it kind of open to how you see it. I've seen people say that they were intrigued by her, because basically they'd let her live.
Yeah.
They stopped trying to control her, and they just let her live a life. But you see, as the film kind of pans out, there's all these alien ships in the sky.
Yes.
There's lots like cities on fire, and you see other people clearly being controlled by the parasite. So to me, they took over the world at this point for me, but they've let her live. And I've seen people say that they think that because she's intrigued and interested by her, that's why they sort of spared her, or just lost enough aliens trying to like infect her. But for me, I mean, pretty much when I watched it, I thought it was because I saw she was isolated, and they kind of, cause she's like an outsider, shunned, isolated. She had this. That's probably what gave her the kind of the will to keep fighting them as well. It's probably took them a bit by surprise, and I think they like kind of liked her, felt a bit sorry for her.
Okay, then, I didn't get that from the way they were trying to kill her all the time.
True, because it shows her going like into the community, and like dancing with the neighbours who are now being controlled by the aliens. So it's like it's like they gave her a life. It's not real life. She knows they're not real people. Well, they're like dead, effectively. Yeah. But she's now can have the friends, have the neighbours.
Yeah.
Let's give her a life.
I see that.
That's kind of like why they let her live, so that she could have a life like she wanted. I mean,
yeah, I get that. Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, that makes more sense than.
It's very open. It's very open ending. It's not like it doesn't really explain why.
Yeah, I see. It's almost like there's no. A lot of films, you get that first sort of section of a film is sort of you get to know the character, you get to know sort of the stories of everybody, and you get a feeling towards what's going to happen. Like with It, for example, where the boat goes down into the drain and you see this monster and it's like we all float down here and all sorts of stuff. So you kind of get what's going to happen. And there's like this scene setting. But in this film, there's no scene setting, really. The aliens appear and full blast from there. So
it's not like a lot of movies where humans end up winning because the aliens do take over the world. That's how it ends. We'll just leave her. That's kind of like the sting in the tail. Is that like with Signs? They figure out the water can kill him, and obviously while the worlds end up fighting him back, and Independence Day end up winning, like in the end. Whereas this one, they don't. It is the end of the world. Apart from her, to let her live.
Yeah. Blair Witch doesn't end well either.
True.
To be fair, but yeah, it is. I might have to rewatch it with that thought process now in mind, and try and see it from the outsider point of view that she is, because I got swept quite quickly into the action. I love a good action film. It doesn't. At some points, I was literally just exhilarated by what was going on. It was just like, God,
it doesn't let up at all. It doesn't let up. It's just film.
I even said to the guy at work, I was like, there was moments I was just like, oh my God, this is just like. There's not many films that do that to me, where I'm just like fully invested, and it just goes. It just goes. There's a lot of films that go a bit up and down, but that was just like,
yeah. There's no respite.
No, there was no respite, and it was. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, so that was No One Will Save You. Big spoiler there is that she lives, but everybody else dies.
Yeah, the whole world, everybody dies. It appears, but then I did think now, was it just the California thing or wherever she lived? I don't know where she lived. Like, is it just that particular area, or was it everywhere?
I think it's everywhere. Like I say, it doesn't show us, but I think it's the world.
Yeah, I think that was also quite good because, like, there's films like 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later, which, in terms of opening scenes of a film, 28 Weeks Later is phenomenal. And we should probably talk about zombies, and because people believe in zombies and that. But if you've not seen the first 5 minutes of 28 Weeks Later what's his name's in it? I can't even think. Big beat from out of Trainspotting. Anyway, that is
Cillian.
No, he's in the first one.
Oh, it's first one.
So 28 Weeks Later is the next one, and it's got.
It starts on the monorail thing. And on the monorail or the train.
On what? 28 Weeks Later?
Yeah.
No, it's like there's a scene, they're in a cottage, and they're like, don't open the door to anybody. And then the zombies come, and his wife's spoiler alert, all over the place. His wife's in the room with their kid, and he manages to get out the window, and he's running away from this isolated cottage where the zombies have like descended on. And he looks round, and she's at the window, banging at the window, like, basically, save me. And you see her fucking get taken by a zombie. All the while, he's just running from him. He's just like, fuck this, I'm gone. even though his family and kid and everything have all been massacred, and he watches it essentially happen. It's a real intense sort of 5-10 minutes of a film, and that was the kind of feeling I got with this film. Quite the way through the film, it was like that. It was just like a non-stop deep breath, hold your breath moment, and you just so, which is why I really enjoyed it, because a lot of films I do watch, like I mentioned to you off there, that I'll watch them in like 30-minute slots. People at work hate me for that, but I can watch films in a few hits. I don't have to watch it all at once, because as you know, we're doing a podcast and everything. It's all a bit full on anyway, so trying to get an hour and a half to just watch a film is quite difficult. And it was one of the few films that I've really just invested and watched the whole way through, first go in, and I'm glad I did. So yeah, I'll give that. Well, okay then. What a Pursuit of the Paranormal podcast out of 10? What would you give it? May as well give them ratings while we're here.
I would go with 8. It's only probably that middle 15 minutes. Apart from that, it probably would have been a 9.
Yeah, I'd definitely say 8 and a half, 9, around that. I'd say it's definitely a film I will need to watch again. Now I've understood it a bit more.
But that's only my, you know what I mean?
No,
but on like Reddit, there's loads of different people's sort of thoughts, and it's purposely left kind of open for you to
and it really is. It really is. It did remind me, though, now looking back at it, that it's very much like Signs. It was very much like 10 Cloverfield Lane, because you don't really know the purpose or what these things are, where they come from, how big the problem is, till right at the end. It was thoroughly enjoyable. So right now we're talking about Jeff the Talking Mongoose. So, and specifically Nandor Fodor and the Talking Mongoose, which we're fortunate enough to get a screener version of, nicely sent to us by the film's publicist. So that was cool. We're very Hollywood now, so please don't come and see us. Just message us and we'll get back to you as and when we can. So no, fortunately, we were lucky enough to get this screener, which we've watched. But we're going to be talking to play the interview that I had with Adam Sigal, which is the director and writer of the film. So that was super cool.
Yeah.
Which we'll play after we've just briefly got people up to speed with who Jeff is. So, Jeff is a real event. What happened, Ash?
Yeah, so we've had Richard Freeman on the pod in the past, who's been out to investigate this case a couple of times. So Jeff Talking Mongoose is the supposed name of a mysterious creature that was claimed to have inhabited a farmhouse on the Isle of Man in the early 1930s. So it was the Irving family lived on the Isle of Man, and they started having kind of weird things happening in the house, and they kind of started being able to talk to this being. They didn't actually see the creature, but the voice told them that his name was Jeff and he was a mongoose from India. It's obviously mongooses aren't a UK animal. It was very, very random that this voice told him that he was a mongoose. But most of the stuff that's kind of happened was more like paranormal, poltergeist type activity in the house. And he would have many conversations with the family. And he claimed to have been living on this property for centuries. And he would sometimes be a bit nasty towards the family and like sort of make comments about them and play pranks and stuff on them during the house. The case was investigated by Harry Price, who sort of made it a little bit famous.
Yeah.
And he published his book all about it. He remained skeptical, but couldn't prove or disprove the claims. Obviously, people say it's just a hoax by the family, using ventriloquism and other things going on just to make people think that it's something happening. But very interesting either way, very interesting story. I also can't go into it too much just in this episode, but you listen to the podcast with Richard Freeman for kind of more information. And yeah, that's it in the film. Christopher Lloyd plays Harry Price.
Yeah,
investigator. We've also got Neil Gaiman as the voice of Jeff, and I love Neil Gaiman. He's proper cool, so I'm glad that he's in it. And you've got Minnie Driver and Simon Pegg also in the film. So quite a star-studded little film, this one.
And there's even more people that you'll recognise in there that you'll know their faces for definite. So, yeah, as soon as it said Simon Pegg, it's like, oh, actually, this could be a good film. This could be a good film. So, it's incredibly well shot. It is. It's a film that I went in there knowing the story because of the podcast.
Yeah.
Expecting it to be a comedy because it was Simon Pegg.
And
I know he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't just do comedies. I get that because he does Mission Impossible, but he still plays a funny character in there, and he plays Spock in the Star Trek films, the newer Star Trek films. So I was expecting some kind of humour. There was a little touch of humour, I must say, but the best bit was his accent, which I spoke to Adam Sigal about. His accent, which I can't. It was like a Slovakian weird accent. As soon as he opens his mouth, you go, I wasn't expecting that. And it kind of throws you off. And Adam talks about that in the interview, so I won't spoil that. But, yeah, I felt when I watched it that it did mirror the accounts pretty well. I mean, there's always going to be poetic license on a story to make it a bit more interesting. You've only got an hour and a half, to smash through, and you've got big names that you've got to get on screen. You've got to try and get people up to speed with the Jeff story pretty quickly.
You've got to create that drama, and actually it's not a documentary.
No,
so you're not going to expect it to be totally like true to the story. It is a film. It is a film.
And one of those is the fact that Harry Price is played by an American. So that straight away, for anybody who's sort of like quite specific on details of stuff, this isn't the film for you. If you want to, you'll get the overall story of the book of Jeff, but you will get the overall story of Jeff. Excuse the dogs. You'll get the overall story of Jeff, but you have to make up your mind whether or not you think it's a real thing, which is something I addressed in the interview. I mean, who knows? It's so long ago, and although it's pretty well documented, it's a kind of thing that is almost too hard to believe because it's a mongoose. It's not something that's native to the UK. I know there's reports that it was yellow back in the old days. It's not yellow in the film. It's like a mongoose. So you do get a sense that while the main plot of what actually happened and happens in the film, kind of has sort of a different sort of message. And it's out on Amazon Prime on Friday. Yeah, I thought it was a really good film. I quite enjoyed it. It's not the kind of film I'd normally be interested in had I just seen the title.
Well, the title says The Talking Mongoose. Kind of. It makes me feel more like it'd be a kid's film.
Yes, yeah. It struck me as a kid's film when you see the writing. It's very childlike writing. It's like footsteps of the mongoose at the end. So, at the end of the poster, should I say. So, it was good. It was good. I enjoyed the film, and I need to watch it again because after I spoke to Adam Sigal, he sort of gave me another viewpoint on it, which I won't talk about now, but more around the fact of he kindly put it as the cult of Jeff. And how, from a spiritual point of view and religious point of view, how Jeff's story resonates with a lot of people. And once he said that, I was like, I see that in the film. But we explain all that in the interview, so I won't. But I recommend you watch it for definite. If people are slightly interested in the podcast, I think you would get something from it.
Definitely.
Remove your belief a little bit, because it is made for TV. It's like a film, so it says possibly based on a true story and whatnot. So
yeah,
definitely want to watch.
Cool. So now check out the interview with Adam and Greg, which will start now.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I like your haircut, man. It's great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Like, we're almost twins. We're almost.
I know. Your beard's a little cooler than mine. Mine doesn't quite connect, and it's still not. I'm 41 years old. I'm hoping like by the time I'm 60, maybe I'll have a full beard, but I don't know. It may just not happen for me in this life.
I'm 46. So
okay.
There's hope. Come on.
There's hope. 5 years. Okay, good. Excellent.
A lot can happen in 5 years.
Absolutely. Ain't that the truth? So
cool. So yeah, shall I just get straight into it?
Do it. Yeah.
Cool. So we are a paranormal podcast. We've spoken about Jeff on a previous podcast. It's a very intriguing story. So the first question for me is, why Jeff? What made you first want to tell his story, and how did you first come across it? Because it's a story that people don't necessarily know about until now.
Yeah, it's like the cult of Jeff that I call it. Like I'd say about 1 in 30 people that I encounter knows about it. So I came across it in the most random way possible. I was listening to a sports talk radio show out here probably 10 years ago. And they did this stupid segment where they would celebrate the birthday of a person who wasn't around anymore. And they said and they'll do like 5 people. They're like, today was Abraham Lincoln's birthday and this person's birthday. And then one day they said that today was the birthday of Dr. Nandor Fodor, considered to be the father of modern parapsychology. His most famous case involved the investigation of the Talking Mongoose Jeff and I said, what? I did like a double take. So then I like kind of researched it sort of superficially, and I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. I'm going to write about this someday. And I made other movies, and I would tell people, though, I'm going to write this Talking Mongoose script, and they looked at me like I was insane, because I was. And then I never wanted to do just a straight biopic, though. That was never my intention. So I had this very strange sort of peripheral that I witnessed religious experience with somebody who sort of made a crazy decision based on her religion that I was just baffled by. And for some reason, it made me think of the Jeff story and Nandor. And once I had that subtext and that theme and everything, that was when I was like, okay, now I'm going to write this. And I basically picked and chose the aspects of the real incidents that served my narrative best. But in doing so as well, I also researched it a ton and looked at the whole thing. And the story itself is just unbelievable.
It's crazy. Yeah. It is a crazy story. So yeah, I get why you chose Jeff. And even when we were researching it so earlier on in the year, it's a story that as soon as you say Talking Mongoose, people are like, "What? That's ridiculous." I know. So it's definitely a story that needs to be told, and watching it as I've done, and also my co-host can't be with us today. He thought the same, that it's great to have a visualization of Jeff to a certain extent. I don't know how much I can say about the film, because
you can say whatever you want, man. It's okay.
So. The bit I found absolutely fascinating is I had in my head one version of how I thought the story would go when I watched it, and then to see sort of it kind of going down a particular route where Nandor's kind of like, not sure about this, and then one of the guys like, we both know it's a lie, and then the end of the film, and I was just like, what? I didn't know. I went into it thinking it's going to come out, it's either fake or it's real. And I know throughout this throughout the whole film, it's very much like, oh, it's fake, it's real, it's fake, it's real, depending on which character's telling the sort of narrative at that point. Right. And then at the end, seeing what I did, and I come off it and I thought, wow, I didn't know what to expect the ending to be like. Sure. And even after the ending, I still didn't know whether Jeff was real or not. It was a great ending.
Sure. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. And like, my intention with this, so the filmmakers and storytellers that I respect the most are guys like the Coen brothers and David Lynch, and guys who not guys, but filmmakers, for God's sake, who prioritize theme and subtext over narrative. Okay. So if you think about that, and if you think that my intention with the theme of this film was to analyze the relationship between cynicism and faith and happiness, okay, and how those things relate to a person's happiness, that's what matters. So then what happens in the story serves that, right? So I wanted to, if you sort of envisage Jeff as the concept of not God, but of religion and of something that you must believe in, that, look, nobody's ever going to be able to prove it really exists. But if you believe strong enough, it might. Then all the characters' decisions make sense. And all of the choices in the film, I think, make sense. Like even the ending, where I didn't want to show the face full on. Like, you might believe so strongly in God that you feel him or catch a glimpse of him, but you're never going to necessarily see the face of God, right? Like, in that sense, like, and so that was what I wanted. And the basic sort of concept again is like, Nandor is this incredibly cynical, rational, scientific minded man. And he just can't. And he reflects me. Like, you can sit here and tell me I'm going to heaven and explain why and show me all the books that say that. It just doesn't work for me. I wish I could, but that's the thing. I wish I could. And you believe, not you, but the proverbial you, believing that probably helps you sleep at night, and you're probably happier thinking and knowing that that's the case. But I can't get there. But that doesn't make me happy. You know what I mean? Like, that's the biggest thing, is like, it's about like what, like I think that somebody who's very scientific and looks at religion as kind of a joke considers themselves in some ways intellectually superior to somebody who just has blind faith in a religion, and they go, I believe in God because of that. But here's the funny thing, is like, why are we here? Like, we're here to be happy. And those people are happy. So who's really more intelligent? Who's really more intellectual? If that's the ultimate goal, is to find happiness, maybe tricking oneself into believing something is the answer. And so those are the concepts I was trying to explore, heady as they are, in this film.
And I think that comes across because when Nandor, when they're, and there's genius getting Simon Pegg as Nandor, and his accent was fantastic, I must say. Because but all the way through the film, I was expecting like these, like Shaun of the Dead puns to come out and all that kind of stuff, and it didn't, and it was perfect. I was waiting for this build up of this huge comedy moment, as you'd expect from Simon Pegg, and it didn't come, which was great. But the fact that they said, look, to be able to see Jeff, you've got to tell him that you believe in him. And he's standing in front of the cave going, I've been told to tell you that I believe in you, Jeff. Dude, and the only way you can,
my man, I've been in that exact situation religiously. Like, I feel like there's a moment in every religion where they look at you and they go, okay, you got to believe, you got to do this. And that's the moment where you're either going to go, okay, and you're going to trick yourself into it and like, okay, yes, I feel it. And now you're part of this cool group, and you're part of this social group that like, you're one of the chosen ones, the Jeff believers, right? And that was what I was trying to accomplish with the scene at the cave, where Irving was testing him and going, is he going to buy in? And he's going to go, Jeff, I believe in you. And then he's like, you do? Okay, cool. Like, he gets it, And I have to say, just with regard to the accent, I've had a really rough experience with an accent in a previous film where an actor was like, I'm going to do this accent. It did not work. And so I was torn because it really tickled me, this idea to have an incredibly famous, prominent British actor in a very British movie surrounded by British actors playing someone not British. It tickled me. Like, I thought it was funny, but I was very worried about the accent. And of course, I shouldn't have been, because Simon, we come on the table read and he starts talking, and I'm just like, oh my God, I almost fell out of my chair. It was so perfect, and it was so great, and it added so much to the character. And I was just like, oh my God. I mean, like, and as I got to know Simon better, I realized, like, I never should have been worried because he's just absolutely incredible. But yeah, so anyway.
That was a genius. That was a genius thing with the accent. And I was, when he first spoke, and I was like, oh, okay. And I still couldn't place the accent for a while. And even now, but it just worked. It worked really well.
It sounded like Christoph Waltz, you know? Yeah. That's what it reminded me of a little bit. Like, it was just so great. I loved it. So
I've got a quick question. You mentioned about the happiness and this cult, and absolutely, it is like you've got to be fully committed to this to be able to see. So you might hear and all that, but you'll never see unless you fully commit. And that hits right for some of these religions, most definitely. But so in an interview with the Isle of Man Examiner after his visit to see the Irvins, Nandor Fodor actually said, if Jeff is an animal, he's a splendid animal and I love him. Jeff seems to have a way of making people feel this way, which comes across in the film because they all go, oh, he said some stuff about my dad, or he said this about this character, and I've come to... He made phone calls around to everybody like 2:00 in the morning, which was that was funny. So Jeff has a way of making people feel this way. Do you, or did you, or any of the cast or crew developed any kinds of feelings of real affection with the little guy?
Oh my God, so much, man. I mean, there were full on like heated debates about believing in Jeff or not believing in Jeff. And I've got pins. Look, I could even show you in here. I mean, I've got like, you know, I believe in Jeff pins. I mean, like we really, truly like,
amazing.
There's a little Nandor Funko, by the way. But yeah, I mean, it was like, absolutely. And that was really cool. And I got, you know, we did a premiere of the film here in the US about a month and a half ago. And we had like 500 people there, and I have so many people still messaging me just how they think about Jeff and the concept of this little rodent, and I think that was really, really lovely, like the cult sort of status of Jeff as well deserved, you know, because there's so much about the story that even far beyond what I wrote. I mean, like there was like I have to go back and look at the specifics. I can't remember exactly, but there was some libel case regarding Jeff, and one of the guys who, it wasn't Price, I think it was the other guy, who, regarding like slander that went all the way to Parliament, and it famously led to a fist fight in the halls of Parliament over this case relating to Jeff. And so like Jeff even made it to the halls of Parliament and caused a fist fight. Like, it's amazing. It really is worth spending an hour to just do some Googling, and it's incredible.
It's an insane story. So last question for me is, do you believe in Jeff?
My answer, somebody asked me this at the premiere, and I'll tell you the same response I gave them. I believe in Jeff as much as I believe in God. There you go.
Very good. Very good. No, that's awesome. We could talk forever on this. Jeff's when you say I told people today that I'm speaking to somewhere, the director of a film about a talking mongoose, and they're like, pardon?
Yeah, what?
And then the next question would be is, why haven't they listened to our podcast about it? But exactly. It's just so fascinating. Like, so even just the title of the film itself is just like, what am I even going to be walking into with this film? And it wasn't what I expected it to be. I expected, with Simon Pegg to be in it, I expected a comedy element. And whilst there is funny moments in it, for definite, it was just a fascinating story. So And it brought to life what I thought Jeff might look like. Also, like the whole, like you say, the whole cult of Jeff. I think, I don't even know if Jeff is a thing. It's just crazy.
I mean, have you seen the photographs of him? I mean, I sent those to Simon, and we were howling. I mean, it looks like a furry hat on a fence.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's almost the most believable thing. It's insane. So
insane. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun. Have a good one.
Pursuit of the Paranormal with Ash and Greg.